And we are live.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Those Aren't Biscuits. I'm one of your hosts, Jonathan Cadot, and with me, as always, there is a freeway running through his front yard, Owen Adams.
I don't even get that one, John. Is there something to get? Is there something I missed?
Yeah, I mean, there's a freeway running through the yard. You're Free Fallin' by Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. It's like his most popular song.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty positive.
Okay. Well, fine then.
Because all the vampires are walking through the valley in West End, Ventura Boulevard.
Okay.
You're a good girl.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's my phone. 1 second.
I'm sort of grateful of the interruption, if I'm honest.
That's uncalled for, right? Just because you don't know music.
I'm familiar with the concept of music, sir. I will have you know, sir.
Oh, sure. I mean, like I'm familiar with the concept of quantum physics, but I don't know like specifics of it, so I don't consider myself a physicist.
I mean, that makes sense. I'm not a big Tom Petty fan. Is anyone?
I mean, I'm sure there's someone who's 60 feet tall, towering over buildings, loving wildflowers.
See, it doesn't work when you do it because it doesn't annoy me.
Yeah.
No,
I'm just getting out of the way.
I'm not much of a Tom Petty fan. Is Tom Petty still big in the U.S. over there?
I mean, he's dead.
Are people still free falling in love with him?
I mean, like, you can't use that. I already used that song, and you're like, no-sold me. So, you can go right to hell.
That's the only bit of a Tom Petty song I know. Not even a Tom Petty song. I know that bit of a Tom Petty song.
I mean, can we get to the point? Can we roll another joint and head in down the road?
I don't know enough Tom Petty songs to participate. You've picked a reference that is too out of my wheelhouse, Jonathan. I'm sorry. It's not my fault. It's just poor planning on your part.
Well, I appreciate anyone who's waiting for us to get going with the show, because I do know that the waiting is the hardest part.
Yes, I recognize that you are still referencing song lyrics, but I have nothing to contribute. Please continue running the show in this way. It's working great. Yeah, I don't really know much about Tom Petty, I'll be honest. I know Last Dance with Mary Jane. That's a Tom Petty one, isn't it?
I mean, look, here's the deal, okay? I've started this, so I won't back down.
I mean, I have the button that says stop streaming, so I'd advise a different route.
I still feel like I won. But all right, let's move on. What you been up to this week, man?
Ooh, it's a good question. I've been playing some of that Mortal Kombat 11, which it's been 2 weeks since the last show, and I don't think I played it last time. Had I? Maybe? Who knows? But I've been playing Mortal Kombat 11 a lot, actually. It's crossed the line from game I stream to game I actually want to stop streaming other stuff so I can go play Mortal Kombat 11. Which I haven't had like room in my life for a game like that in a while. And it's good. I can actually beat people online in a fighting game, John. This is a fresh experience for me. Mind you, actually I didn't get too bad at Injustice either. Like I could occasionally get a win with that one.
Like, what upsets me is I keep on thinking like, oh, it'd be great if I got Mortal Kombat 11 and we can play each other online, and I keep on forgetting that you went off and got the Xbox One version.
In my defense, I didn't buy it. I was given it.
You could have been more specific with them. Could have been like, hey, can you slide me
No. I will tell you a secret about sites like Keymailer where you request games and stuff. If you've got the choice of PS4 or Xbox, ask for Xbox One. Because nobody else does, and you will get returns like 5 times more frequently. But actually, I asked for both. I was like, whichever one you want to give me. Well, I say both. Either is probably a better word. Mind you, that does sometimes happen where I'll put a request.
More codes!
Sometimes you'll get a game and I'll put a request in and I'll be like, hey, yeah, no, I could play it on PS4 or Xbox One or whatever, you know? And then I get like 3 emails a couple of hours later saying, they've approved your request for this and they've approved your request for this. And I go, should I? Because I know what they're thinking is, well, if we approve his request on both, he will choose the one which is most appropriate to him and decline the other.
Nope. Like, I'm a millennial, mofo. I'm taking everything.
I have had my moments of doing that. I redeemed a game called Cat Quest on PS4 to stream it, and then they also approved it on.
PETA game?
No, it's this it's sort of like a big open world action RPG where you're a little kitten and everything's kitten themed. It's pretty good actually for a game.
You remember that PETA game?
Oh yeah, the game where you were like action heroes for animal rights.
It was almost like a Binding of Isaac kind of game.
I seem to remember there was like a sexually abused polar bear in that game or something.
Well, there's the whale, right?
The whale.
You come across the whale and it's like, oh, they stole my baby, and then I get trapped here forever. It's like there's no like actual resolution there. It's just, yep. Thanks for visiting me. My life sucks.
It's a haunting game. Kitten Squad, that one was.
Right. There we go.
But they did also offer me it on Switch, and I claimed it on Switch as well, so I could play it in bed. I streamed it a little bit. It was good. They knew the score. They know if they're making the offer, I might take both. What do you want to do? I feel bad sometimes, because sometimes I'll get an offer, and I'll play the game, and it'll be really quiet on the channel, and I'll be like, well, they did send me. I should probably do like another stream, but I've done one. But it was quiet for me, so I'm like, it's not my fault nobody wants to watch that game. What am I gonna do? And I'm like, well, you know. I do try. If someone sends me a game, I do try and get some time out of it. But the Mortal Kombat, though, was a little treasure because I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did, but I liked the beta, so I put the request in. And I'm loving it. This is like up there with the best freebie to have landed on me as a result of being a YouTuber. You know, it's much better than constant anxiety from the impending troll doom.
Right.
But that's good.
Yeah, okay. So you're saying hello in the chat. Like, hello, Tristan Roca, who says hello. And then we got Gamerland, who says, to hose, arbite, aren't biscuits. Hi, yeah.
I feel like this is like an Event Horizon situation. Like, Liberatum, tute, those arbite, aren't biscuits, eh? It means those aren't hell biscuits.
It's like, yes, rise, my dark lord, rise. Hello. I feel like, wouldn't that be our dark lord if like we use like the power of our show to like raise a demon? It'd be the most like unthreatening kind of like milk toast demon known to man. It's like, speak your name, demon. Is it Beelzebub? Ball? No, I'm Terry. How's it going?
You think that's what we'd be worth, essentially, to hell?
Right. Like, look, we do try to honor all requests, but you did request for both codes, and when you
and also hello to Aubrey, Chicken Leeser, and Sinister Minister. How you guys doing? And Tristan Rocha says, Mortal Kombat 11 is pretty good. I don't really have a main fighter if anyone's Cabal or Noob Saibot. I've been enjoying Scorpion just because he's got a good range of powers. No, I see what your point. I think you make a good case. We should convert the show into a Satanist-themed podcast in an attempt to summon the least effective demon. It'd be like that book, The Screw Tape Letters. You remember that one?
The what?
The Screw Tape Letters.
I don't.
It's this book written by C.S. Lewis, and it's sort of like a children's, sort of like a hilarious children's book about how demons are always trying to destroy your life.
Hilarious.
It's about this there's this demon called Screwtape, and he's this mentor to this other demon who's writing him letters about how he's picked this person he's supposed to go and basically try and tempt into sins and stuff. But this person keeps outsmarting him, and Screwtape's supposed to be sending him advice. Do you know what it is? Imagine if C.S. Lewis, who wrote all those lovely Narnia books, also wrote those Chick Tracts comics. It's sort of like that, basically.
It's like he's also writing Tijuana Bibles. You know? Look them up, kids, if you don't know what a Tijuana Bible is.
Also, look up Chick Tracts, because
Actually,
they're hilarious.
Don't look those up.
Chick Tracts, look those up. They're funny.
Let's see here.
Whatever happened to that movie? Did that ever get off the ground?
The Chick Tracts movie?
Yeah, didn't you hear about this? There was a production company that licensed the rights to make, you know that Chick Tract that's about, I think it's the one that's about Dungeons and Dragons, where they start playing Dungeons and Dragons, and then eventually they get recruited by the witch who's running the Dungeons and Dragons games, and uses it as a foundation to teach them real black magic, and Dungeons and Dragons ends up with those high school kids all losing their souls.
Isn't that the Tom Hanks movie?
What? Is that a Tom Hanks movie?
No, he was in a movie that was like that.
So that was one of the Chick Tracts, and this company licensed the rights to make a movie based on that. But they were clearly like making fun of Jack Chick, and yet their intention was to adapt it like as a completely straight movie. And I wonder if that movie ever turned up. I'd watch that. I'm gonna look it up.
Okay. Let's see here.
It did get made. Dark Dungeons 2013.
Tristan wrote. Oh, it says Rocha.
Sure glad we stopped for that comment.
Well, no, because he's trying to teach us how to pronounce his name. He says, sorry, a lot of people say Rocha like you did. It's a little frustrating.
No problem, Tristan. Ro-ch-ah. It's so difficult to explain how to pronounce things in writing.
Right. I mean, because it's really hard to type all those weird symbols that are in a dictionary. Like, I'm not even trying to be an asshole about that. Like, those are really hard symbols to find on a keyboard.
At least if you look at like Eastern European languages, they have a set number of like accents and words, and like they're mostly written phonetically, right?
Right. Well, same with Spanish. I've learned. Spanish is very. You write it how you think it would sound. You know.
Yeah, I'm all in favor of that.
Mazes and Monsters. That's what it was called.
What was this? I don't remember this.
It was a TV movie. Tom Hanks in Mazes and Monsters. Bound together by a desire to play Mazes and Monsters, Robbie and his 3 college classmates decide to move the board game into a local legendary cavern. And that's all they say.
The film was adapted from a novel of the same name by Rona Jaffe. The novel is a cautionary tale regarding the then new hobby of fantasy role-playing games. The book was adapted into a made-for-television movie of the same name in 1982 by Tom Hanks. The novel is based in large part on the largely apocryphal steam tunnel incidents of the late 1970s. Oh, when they thought that Dungeons and Dragons was making all those people commit suicide.
Right.
It's weird that, like, okay. Hysterical parents groups over the years, they've picked some weird targets, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, they land on strange things. My mom's thing was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. She thought that it, like, encouraged violence in a, like, seriously violent way.
My mom's was Beavis and Butthead and Ren and Stimpy.
I mean, Beavis and Butthead, I can understand not letting your kids watch. At least Turtles was a children's show, you know?
Right.
But Ren and Stimpy, I think that my mom was pretty hysterical about that one, too. I'll tell you a story about that. But, Dungeons and Dragons is the weirdest one. No game with dice should be... except maybe dice. should be like top of people's list for things you shouldn't be letting your kids play because you're worried about it being like seriously satanic. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Unless it's in a casino, I don't think it's a big problem for the children. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, all you have to do is look at the kids who are playing Dungeons and Dragons, and you know all you need to know about how much it's a bad influence, right?
Yeah, it's kind of those things where it's like as soon as a bunch of like overly sensitive parents start like getting after something, it's like I want in on that. Like once I hear like this is damning the youth of America and it is damaging, I'm like I want some of that.
It immediately
like,
makes you go, Mytho, this was good.
Like I want to take whatever that is and just like press it against my face. Like yes, give me more.
My childhood story around Ren and Stimpy. There is an episode of Ren and Stimpy where it's sort of set in like the old west, and you know the guy with like the big nose and glasses who played he had a lot of different roles in Ren and Stimpy.
Mm-hmm.
He's telling them a story around the campfire of the era when there used to be these things. I think they call them like Gerbers, or probably not Gerbers. I forget what they call them. Oh no, it's I forget. Whatever. It's something like Lummox or something like that. And he's telling the story of how these things used to roam the plains, and they're basically like big fat naked people, big fat naked middle-aged guys. But in the story, they treat them like horses. Basically, they tame them, they break them, they ride them, and then eventually they have to like set them off to be free, things like that. And I'm watching this cartoon, and it's clearly like just this bizarre, surrealist, weirdness like Ren and Stimpy usually is, you know.
Right.
And my mum starts going off on this long thing about how it's like it's a highly distasteful, deliberate analog to slavery. And how inappropriate that is, and how dare they make fun of this thing that really... And from that point on, we weren't allowed to watch Ren and Stimpy anymore. And like, I'm sorry, but... they were big, fat, naked white guys, and they treated them like horses. It was... It wasn't supposed to be slavery. It was supposed to be horses with funny-looking fat people.
I think there's a lot of things in Ren and Stimpy that, like, I don't think I'd want some of my kids to see some of the shit that's in Ren and Stimpy, right? Like,
right.
But it's like I'm reading into things. It's straight up like that's gross. That's really gross. Like I don't really want my kid to see that. It's not because I believe that the hyper detailed close-up images are an analogy towards how
right,
treacherous the road to the devil is. Just
right. But no, that we weren't allowed to watch Ren and Stimpy after that. I mean, it's one of those things where, like, I just had that type of parent, you know? I had the type of parent who liked to find issues in things, I think. You meet people like that, you know what I mean?
Right. Huh. I'm trying to work out what's being said right now in the chat.
Go for it.
Well, okay. Well, we got a lot of things. Like, a lot of people are, LOLing and LMAOing, and ha-ha-haing. Let's see here. Tristan says, my mother loves TMNT. Orca says, oh, this must be a happy cartoon. Happy, happy, joy, joy. You don't seem happy enough. I'll make you happy.
Quite easily the most distressing Ren and Stimpy. One of the best, though, in so many ways.
Right.
Why it's the one everybody remembers.
I love the fact that guy's actually based on someone. Did you ever hear about this story?
No.
So, Happy Happy Joy Joy is actually based off of like a real real minor actor. Like he just played a lot of characters. I can't remember his name, but he also tried to do like these children's songs. And the creator came across, which unfortunately I don't want to really speak about the creator too much because there's controversy with him. But the creator came across a video of this guy doing a song and looked up more about him and discovered that he had all these film roles. So all that weird stuff that's in between the verses of Happy Happy Joy Joy are actually snippets from his movies and stuff that they
Really
threw it out
funny.
of context.
I found out. I'm a big fan of John Lithgow as an actor, right? I think he's great.
Mhm.
He's good at so many different things because he's so bombastic and he's so himself. But then you can apply that to different things in different ways. So he's really good in, not a great movie, but he's great in There's the Villa in Cliffhanger. He's great in. He's great in. I think he's great in Third Row from the Sun. I like him in that. I really loved him in Dexter. Just a really great actor. But then if I was listening to him on, do you remember the Nerdist podcast? Another thing we can't talk about the creator of. It's getting difficult.
Oh no, didn't they find out that wasn't actually legit?
I don't believe so. We'll see. I think a lot of people have been very eager to believe that one's not legit. But anyway, it's one of those things. Who knows? But he was on the Nerdist podcast, and he was talking about his different movie roles and things like that. It was all really interesting. And then they asked him about, and what about these children's albums and shows you do? And I was like, oh, it's really interesting. He went on this really interesting, impassioned speech about children and how it's so different to entertain for children as it is to adults, and how they're so believing and they're so on board. And he was talking about how he has this whole bit where he'll say, when I have this hat on, it means certain things, and they completely believe it and all that stuff. And it's such a different experience towards working with adults and the responsibility and stuff. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then I went and I looked up one of his videos, and they're all on YouTube, and they're shit. They're really embarrassing. And they're these like self-financed children's sing-along albums and sing-along videos. And it's just John Lithgow, an old man, filming himself singing children's songs he's written himself.
Oh no!
to a camera, and it's from what I could tell, no one asked him to do it. No one was like, "Hey, John Lithgow, we've got this idea for a children's show. We think you'd be a good presenter." He was just like, "You know what? I'm gonna make children's sing-along videos." And he just went and did it and made him himself, and he put him out there. And this is like something he considers to be like the heart of his work.
Mm-hmm.
And they're awful.
So the person that Happy Joy Joy or Stinky Whizzle Teats is based off of is an actor and singer named Burl Ives.
I'm looking him up.
But no, it's weird when like.
Oh, he did Ugly Bug Ball.
Yeah,
I know Ugly Bug
Ball. They don't know
Ball.
they're ugly.
Yeah. I remember the Ugly Bug Ball. He might not have written it, but he did a version of it. Could say that much.
Like, it's always weird to me when like famous people you discover that they try to do something else, and they're like way more into it than maybe because everyone knows about the actor who tries to sing or the singer who tries to act, right? That's pretty common. You got Jennifer Lopez and Britney Spears, and there's a lot of them.
Have you ever seen that interview with what's his name from hold on, I'll remember his name. It's one of those names I shouldn't forget, and then I'll get back to you.
But so what I'm trying to say though is when you find out there's someone who does something really like, I'm thinking of like Ringo Starr and his MS Paint paintings,
right?
And hello to Lou's Corner.
Hey Lou, how you doing?
So I wanted to touch on something that Tristan brought up. It kind of felt like I was out of nowhere, but it feels like something we can talk about.
Right.
Tristan says, I think that people are too conscious about things like that. So how in the movie industry people say Mexicans are usually portrayed as gangbangers or crime bosses, they say that Hollywood is racist, which I mean I don't doubt, but if you're making an issue about it, then I feel you're kind of racist. It's the same thing with video games. I don't pay attention to color or skin or gender of the character.
Well, first of all, that's not really related to what I was saying at all.
All right.
The specific context I was talking about was my mum was making a comment about something that wasn't even it wasn't even remotely related to the cartoon. But issues of representation in the media are genuine and completely different to this one.
So, and he goes on to say, if you're not racist, you just care about the storyline or the character. People are just so self-conscious today, myself included.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I mean neither. So here's the thing: is it's very easy to take a position of people are too self-conscious about these things when you're not the person necessarily being misportrayed, right?
Right, or just not portrayed at all.
Right. So I think the issue a lot of time comes from, you could say in certain contexts, like it makes sense in a movie plot for this type of person to portray this type of character, right? That makes sense. But when that's the only thing you see, or if a plot is specifically constructed to make sure that the one person who represents your race is portrayed in this stereotypical way, that's also an issue, right? Because then we're talking about it in an even more egregious construction to make sure that your race, creed, color, sexuality is portrayed in a stereotypical way.
And the problem with that is the longer you do it, the more it builds up, and the more I don't want to say uncomfortable, but the more unusual it gets to see people outside of the dominant group. And the less natural that seems of a choice, the more that builds up racial stereotypes just as a result of media representation becoming something that you double down on and you double down on and you double down on. No, I don't agree with that at all. And I certainly don't agree with this idea that if you notice an imbalance, you therefore are racist. I think I think being aware of representation, the idea that when people say, "Oh, I don't notice race. I'm colorblind. I just watch the plot." Well, why do you care then? if someone else wants people of different races in, why does that bother you? If that's the thing. So the guy I was talking about was, and I could not remember the name, Billy Bob Thornton. Have you seen the Billy Bob Thornton interview?
That's who you couldn't remember?
Yeah, I couldn't remember his name. And I was like, it's such a distinct name as well. Why can't I remember who it is? Anyway.
Yes, I've seen that interview where he's like, would you ask the Beatles? Yeah.
So funny. If you haven't seen it, people at home, he does this interview because he's got a band, right? And he goes on the radio to do an interview with a band, and with his band, and the guy doing the interview, he just says, like, what is it he says? So how did you get into music, I think? Something like that. Which, by the way, I've seen people ask, well, basically people like the Beatles, that question many times, right? How did you get it? It's pretty common. And he goes off on one. Well, first of all, he starts answering the questions in these really useless, nonsensical ways. The rest of his band just look embarrassed.
Oh my gosh, shit.
And he goes off on it because he's like, well, I mean, because he's clearly upset that they think of him as an actor first. It's not like he spent the last 20 years of his career predominantly becoming famous as an actor or anything. But then, the bit that always gets me about that is when he goes, and you were instructed not to talk about that. Like, alright.
Stick to the script, newsman. And hey, don't worry about it, Tristan. It's okay to bring up these topics. We don't shy away from them. But so I wanted to bring up something. There's something that came in my head earlier today.
Okay.
So I'm going to say that for sure what I'm about to bring up will contain spoilers for Avengers Infinity War. I will not say anything further than that. But in Avengers Infinity War, there's a scene. And I'm really quickly jumping topics, and I apologize for this, but this is what came to my head. There's a scene in Infinity War where Thanos has to get his hands on the Soul Stone. And to do this, he has to give up the thing he loves the most. Blah 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 blah. And it turns out it's Gamora.
My German pawn.
and he throws Gamora off the cliff, right? Well, the thing is that like the Red Skull never like explicitly says like that's how he has to do it. You know, like he never says like, oh yeah, you have to throw her off the cliff. You know, it's just kind of like, oh, it's implied. What happens if a being comes to that planet, right? And seeking the Soul Stone, but this being also happens to be, like let's say the size of a cockroach,
Right.
You can't. A cockroach like body can withstand the amount of force terminal velocity would like impact the terminal velocity. Like you can throw a cockroach off the edge of the atmosphere of Earth, and it'll hit the ground and won't die.
So here's the thing. My theory on this, though, is that it's not so much the fall and hitting the rocks that kills you, even though it kills Gamora, but that it's a magic cliff.
Oh, you think it's a magic cliff?
Well, I think it's the MCU sort of science magic, but yeah, I think it's a magic cliff.
So are you suggesting it's a magic cliff as in however far of a fall needs to happen will happen? Or are you suggesting
I'm suggesting whatever you throw off will be sacrificed.
But then why do we have this like really horrific scene then after it's over of Gamora laying there with like blood pooling from the back of her head as if she's slammed?
Oh sure, well I'm sure she died. What I'm saying is, if you threw the cockroach off and it lived, it might live, but it belongs.
It's just a Red Skull running from off screen with a boot.
But it belongs to the magic cliff now. I always figure it's going to be really bad when, like 6 years later, Thanos is, down the squash club. He's like, I love squash. I probably love squash more than anything. If you asked me of all the things in my life I would give up, I think, it would, the one I would put right at the bottom of the list would be, oh.
It just cuts to him holding a squash court above his head. The Red Skull just in there like, why does everyone keep... Oh, excuse me.
Just stop playing squash!
Like, why do people keep throwing things off the cliff? It's not necessary. It's a metaphor.
I like the idea of the Red Skull, desperate to find a power to escape, cursed with the knowledge that because he loves nothing and no one, he can never like gain the Soul Stone himself and use it to free him. Desperately trying to fall in love with a rock.
Huh?
Yeah. We'll get to know each other in time, baby.
This is my favorite rock. You hear that, Soul Stone?
Yeah.
All right, I think we're ready. Damn it. Hey, how you doing, Rock? We'll try again.
The Vision comes in like, do you really love the Rock? Yes.
Yes, I love the Rock.
How much? Show me how much you love the Rock. Pardon? Demonstrate. Yeah. Demonstrate your love of the Rock. The next 3,000 years are him wearing out the smoothest possible hole in preparation.
Whoa, I was not saying that. I was like, kiss it or something, you freak.
If you really loved it, you'd have get that Rock's permission. Another 2,000 years teaching a rock to speak.
It just cuts to him holding Dwayne Johnson above his head. Like, I didn't realize.
And then just back
throws him. Do you smell?
I like the idea that after a while they were like, all right, so where have you been living, Red Skull? They just go back and he's just got like a house, an entertainment system, all that stuff just made out of the bodies of all the people who've thrown themselves down to the bottom of the pit. Oh, that one had like a Game Boy. Hey, I love Tetris.
Yeah, they never show like who has to clean that spot off, right?
Right. They never show how the Red Skull is eating and sleeping. Hence, Magic Planet.
Or he has a comforter made out of skin.
Or because we don't really know how the Tesseract works and stuff, he's literally only just got there. He's like, "Why are you saying this, Scully? You don't know anything." Just keep playing the game. Fake it till you make it, Scully.
he keeps looking himself in the mirror like, look, you started this scam, now you gotta see to the end, okay? This
is like, the longest 6 weeks of my life.
Yeah, that's what we don't see. Like when Gamora and Thanos show up, like 2 minutes prior, the Red Skull showed up. Like, whoa, what's going on? I come for so. Yeah. Throw her off the cliff, I guess.
Don't give the game away, Scully. How do you know? It is my curse to know. How do I know? Oh shit! That turned out to be how. Wish I'd known that.
He throws Gamora off the cliff, and the rest of us pulls out of his pocket. Yeah, you've earned it. Here it is. That's what you had to do the whole time.
Damn, I thought that was a Jolly Rancher.
I'm really hungry.
Thanos is like, hey, wait a minute, why has the Soul Stone got a big bite out of it? I don't know. What are you talking about?
Pre-filled.
Why is your esophagus glowing like that? It just does that sometimes.
What they don't realize is all the Soul Stones are actually what Willy Wonka did with the kids who didn't make it. You know? The Power Stone is Gustav, and the Time Stone is was it Jimmy TV or something like that, or
Mike TV?
Mike TV, yeah.
I don't know why I know that, but sure.
I hate Willy Wonka.
Specifically, not the book, not the movie.
No.
Willy Wonka.
Yeah. You better watch your back, Wonka.
What's up with Wonka? I don't know.
Orcas says, instead of Wilson, his name's Rocky. Yeah. Makes sense. Tristan says, gotta cut out that hole. No, you don't. Then he goes on to say, I think he absorbed some of the Tesseract's power, which is why he knows so much and is still alive. Also why he can float and such, or maybe a previous protector of the stone taught him and gave Red Skull his power. Or the Russo brothers wrote it that way.
Or 1,000,001 other things that aren't in the movie.
I mean, yeah, those are all like legitimate.
Did you just go to space yourself?
No. That was a guy in a Harley outside my. But I mean, no, those are all legit theories.
Yeah,
I can see that. Yeah.
But we don't know. We don't really know any of that. I know a lot of people who are insistent that Red Skull died in Captain America. He didn't. You saw him get shot off into space. As if they planned that from the beginning.
I honestly didn't notice that when I first saw it. I really didn't.
It's interesting though, because the Russos only came on board with like Winter Soldier, right? So
yeah,
they kind of gotta. I wonder what other people's plans for Infinity War, and like I wouldn't want to see anybody else do them. I think they've done a fine job, but I'd be interested to know like what they were gonna do before those guys came on board. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, I imagine there was probably plans to like bring the Red Skull back as like as like round 2 for like Captain America 2. You know what I mean?
Maybe not 2, but like 3.
Right.
Which they still should have done. Just in the airport, he's just there. But nobody... They start fighting.
Like, all right, now's my time to. Whoa, what's going?
But he's still wearing like the floaty rocks. Tony Stark, if you wish to end this, you must throw Pepper Potts off this cliff. Why do you keep saying that? Who invited you? When did you get here? What was
Like this, like what? This is like a hero versus hero thing. You're clearly not a hero. I was a hero to the German people. No, you kind of weren't. You kind of weren't.
What I want to know is, why did we miss the all-important scene when Captain America takes the Soul Stone back? And he's like, oh, apparently the Red Skull's here. Hi, I guess.
I was trying to avoid, like, endgame stuff, but...
I don't care. We didn't see that.
It's like, they're like, okay, I gotta bring back the Soul Stone. Ooh, this just got awkward.
What's really funny though
how you been?
what's really funny though is, if you take all the, you're supposed to kind of separate yourself from the historical context. Like, obviously Captain America begins in World War II, Hydra starts off as this organization, but like the real world example would be, we get there and Goebbels is guarding it. Like, but you'd never see that in a movie.
Is that Rommel? We move the Panzers to the east side of the battlefield.
To get the Soul Stone, I must throw in my beloved Germany. Easy, Rommel. Calm down, buddy. I know you're a great military strategist, but I think there's a little bit of a problem with your plan there, buddy.
Okay, what do I have to do to get the Soul Stone? Pledge allegiance to Deutschland!
No, that's not. We've been through this, Rommel.
Sure, I can't just throw something off a cliff. 9!
Just not often you get a Rommel joke on a podcast these days, is it? We're bringing you all the best content.
Alright, what do I have to do for the Soul Stone? Take Algeria! Oh, you didn't do that. I know!
Here's a mild spoiler for Endgame. And if you're worried about Endgame spoilers, please stop listening for a moment. Oh, it's not a very major one. It's more me talking about, a couple of days ago I thought about an ending. You know, like, it almost came to me like a fully formed how it should have ended, and I really wish it would happen. It ends almost exactly the same way, right? Captain America, 1950s car, drives past, shot through the window, the music plays on the record player, and then it pans up, and he's dancing with Tommy Lee Jones. And I've wanted it since I saw it. I just wanted that little twist to change the whole tone of the series a little bit, you know? Just give us a little bit of extra information about Steve we didn't know, you know?
Or just 1950s, you know, classic car. Zoom in, and it's Steve. All of a sudden, a telegram arrives. It's like, I've been subpoenaed to appear before the Committee of Un-American Activities. You go to one meeting.
But I'm Captain America.
Captain America blacklisted with Trumbo.
What was growing up for those kids like? So, huh, Steve, where do you think we should send the kids and stuff? You know, Kansas State? No.
I mean Kent State.
Sorry, Kent State. Kansas State. That's totally different. Dear me. It began with a K. So, this Kennedy guy, he's gonna do really great, right? Steve's like checking his notes. I don't know. Either this one or the next one. It's
like, hey, should we go to Dallas? No. No, I don't think so.
That's the movie I want to see next, though. Steve Rogers' Historical Interloper. It's like an alternate timeline where he's just going to all these historical events showing up.
I mean, that's Forrest Gump.
Right, but with Steve Rogers.
I mean, the funny thing is, like, he could have known everything that happens in during that time period. So it'd be great if he still fell into like some mistakes. You know?
Or he spends the whole time fucking up and he's like, why didn't I ever look at any of that stuff people were telling me to catch up with? I literally know nothing about this history.
He's like, I don't know, I still don't like the Beatles. Sorry.
I'm screwed until we get to 2010.
I mean, wouldn't that become even worse? Because then, once he gets to 2010, he has to now start. I mean, at 2010, he's probably what, 80 years old. Like, I mean, good God, I just realized this. So if he goes back to the 1950s, all right, and let's give him the benefit of the doubt and say it's like 1959, right? He goes back to 1959. He's already like 30, okay?
Right.
So by the time he gets back to the, end game, he's like 120 some years old. Like,
but he's got the super serum, right? That's the idea, I guess.
I guess.
I hope in the next Captain America movie they just backpedal a little bit and he's like, no, I said you could have the shield. I'm still gonna be Captain America. They just keep the old man makeup on. He's like, I'll be there in a minute. Just gotta find a zipper on the uniform. The A-Team music. He joins the A-Team? It is the music. It's da 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 dun 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 dun, but it's being played by a brass band with like a military drum.
Or just like a New Orleans jazz thing.
It's an orchestrated version by Glenn Miller. I
hope you're enjoying Glenn Miller playing at the Tropicabana Club in New York City. We'll be back momentarily after these announcements. Just
do 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 do. Buy war bonds. Steve, you slipped back again. What? What? Where am I? Is that you, Tony?
just in the middle of the night, I kissed Natasha. Ooh.
See, that would have been my ideal, I think, Captain America 2. A movie sort of opens with the revelation that while his body was frozen, his brain wasn't.
Oh no.
It's been aging all this time. Okay, Billy, now. I'm coming, Billy. Did I ever tell you that back in my day, we didn't let women drive.
Oh, see, I'm thinking like his body was frozen, but his mind continued to age. Like,
right.
So when he comes out, he's full on, Chris Evans. It's like the world needs Captain America. Cranberries.
Could you? Am I in the Avengers or the Army? I don't remember what we're doing today. Billy, where are we?
Avengers assemble.
I like the
whatever.
When we in the Avengers in the canteen, I like it when we have the meals with the old buttons on the top, the little chocolate buttons, Steve, we're trying to fight the.
Why did he turn into the Rain Man?
The one with the buttons. The buttons.
Definitely the buttons.
Oh.
Oh god, it's one of those jokes where I don't know if I should say it or not. It's
Well, fuck it. I'm off the hook.
Captain America, there's aliens descending from the sky. We need your help. Back in my day, the only thing we had to worry about were those Nazis in Germany and them colored fellas down the street. Whoa, Steve. Whoa. What?
I could do this all day, but they couldn't.
I don't see what the big deal is. Separate but equal seems fine. Whoa.
So do you think they're going to make another Captain America movie?
Well, I mean, they got that.
A Sam Wilson one.
Well, they got that show coming.
Oh, yeah, with Bucky in it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think he's going to be Captain America in it? Or do you think he's going to be the Falcon? Because they've been teasing that one as Winter Soldier and the Falcon, but do you think when it actually launches, it'll be Winter Soldier and Captain America?
I would hope so.
What I want to know is, in this era of movies, are they going to make him Captain America with the shield, even though he has no powers?
Mm-hmm.
Or are they going to make him Captain America, but also with the bird suit, like Bird Captain America?
I mean, have you not seen Sam Wilson as Captain America?
No, I have. Yeah. What I'm saying is, in the movies, we gotta go by what we've got in the movies to go on, right? Because the MC, it'll work some stuff in, but what I'm saying is, Sam Wilson in the movies doesn't have any superpowers, right?
Right, he has the suit, yeah.
Okay. But the suit in the movies is primarily just, really, the wings, right?
Well, yeah, they've added a little bit here and there.
Right, but it's mostly just a wingsuit, right?
Right.
So what I'm saying is, are they going to make him Captain America with wings? Are they going to design him a completely new suit and have him just completely Captain America? Or is, how are they going to go with it? That's what I mean.
Well, okay, so if they go with the comics, right, they do this thing where he has the shield, right? Right. He carries a shield, and then the wings themselves become, like, retractable.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. I mean, okay. Not to get too nitpicky and stuff like this, right? But I feel obliged to mention, since we're in this era of, like, Spider-Man as well, in Infinity War, wouldn't really, if we were really dealing with real-world logic and things, wouldn't the real solution be for Tony Stark to have given each of the Avengers a
suit,
an Iron Man suit tailored to their abilities?
Yeah,
the way he did for Spider-Man. They basically should just all have one, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when Spider-Man showed up with like his Iron Spider suit, do you think everybody else was like, well, are you just dishing these out now? Where do I sign up?
It's like, where's my shield launcher that basically makes.
Right.
Where's my shield rail gun?
And magnetic shield that makes it always retract, even though it pretty much retracts automatically anyway, because apparently with my super strength potion, I also got super trigonometry skills. But
and sometimes it bounces more than 3 times, so you're really screwed.
But like, yeah, I mean, I can think of some Avengers that would really benefit, right? Vision, I understand, because Vision is like a robot through and through. Okay, he doesn't need one. Scarlet Witch, you could say, oh, she needs like her hands out to do the magic.
Sure, but she can still have a suit, right. Just with her exposed hands,
The Falcon, he could have just, I mean, Stark could presumably just made a better suit around that. I mean, presumably Stark could have just gone, no, sod the wings, we've got flying without wings. We've had them for about 5 movies now. So, allow me to make you a suit.
We've kind of had it since the beginning.
Right. Allow me to make you a suit that flies without the wings. Why are we even inventing the wings? I mean, it kind of works with the Falcon, because in Iron Man 2, they did establish that the government's trying to catch up with Iron Man, and so the Falcon suit sort of makes sense, but they never really explicitly say that. But Tony's got, like, a suit that can do everything the Falcon suit can do, and also happens to be armored around the face. Let him have that.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, Hawkeye and Black Widow could have used this suit.
Yeah. And imagine what Hawkeye would do with this. And even if you put in something like, oh, I aim better with my bare eyes. Okay. Do you aim better with a bare chest? Bare testicles?
Well, I mean, like, you've seen bare testicles, they're pretty heavy. So,
but yeah, I there are some characters who wouldn't work for. I can totally understand why Ant-Man doesn't get a robot suit.
Because every time he uses his powers,
he just goes into the shoe.
Shit!
And then expands back inside the shoe. No! Tony!
Get the shoehorn!
Do you know what I think Tony should have done more that you never seen those movies too? Thinking about this.
No.
I would have liked to have seen him use... I know like he did it kind of towards the end of Iron Man 3, but I want to see them just invent like an Iron Man suit that's a pair of handcuffs. So you're like, oh hey, nice to see you, and he shakes hands, and then the suit just goes onto them, and then he's like, take this guy home! Whee! For kidnappings, you know what I mean? A suit that you can deploy onto someone else to confine them.
Like there's like an Iron Maiden?
A little bit, yeah, like yeah, basically. Like, you know how in Civil War he puts his finger in the little in the cigarette lighter on the helicopter and it becomes an Iron Man suit, you know? That means that you could just come up, shake someone's hand, slap something on their hand, and then suddenly they're wearing an Iron Man suit, you know? It would be very useful for like imprisoning people, but it would also be really good for situations when the big villain shows up and you don't want to be around. No, he's Iron Man! Get him! Some passerby, you know?
Right. It's like he knows that, you know, his big evil villain's coming to get him. And like like I've come to destroy Iron Man. He just like slips the ring on the guy next to him. Ah! Here he is!
Yeah. Sinister Minister says, I like Ant-Man. I like Ant-Man too. I like those movies a lot. It was the standalone ones. They're good.
Kristen says, Falcon America.
Just change his name to the Eagle.
Right. I'm sure there is an Eagle.
Not in the MCU.
Well, let's see here. The Eagle. Marvel.
Oh, he's he's the superhero that wrote Hotel California.
Oh, he deserves to die then. I hate that song. Just him on a dark desert highway.
You really do hate the Hotel California, don't you?
I really do.
I always picture you like in a bus driving out the Eagles, you know, and then suddenly just one of them goes, "Hey, we appear to be on some sort of dark desert highway."
I was like, that's it.
There's no one around for miles. Really?
Relax, says the night man.
Well, there's American Eagle, Jason Strongbow, which is funny because Strongbow is a brand of cider here. Alcoholic. Apparently, American Eagle is a Navajo superhero.
Oh, cool. Representation.
Yeah.
No, I really don't like Hotel California. In fact, I don't know if I told this story or not, but I was like inundated with that damn song in Bali of all places.
You did let me know.
Oh my god! I will say though, it was great hearing the Indonesian singer doing his version of that song.
I wonder why English. It's so big there.
I think it was a case of like them trying to appeal to tourism.
Eagles fans, because that's the hot new tune is all the tourists want to hear.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think it was just a case of like we're gonna pick like 30 rock and roll songs that
all of them Hotel California.
Oh, we got Hotel California. We had the Hotel California remastered version. We have the live from Red Rocks Hotel California. We have the Hotel California outtake B-side, rare Japanese release. We have, and so forth.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's doesn't everybody have that on their record shelf?
Unfortunately, I do. my mom gave me a bunch of vinyl albums not too long ago, and including the Eagles. I was like, I really don't want this. I don't want it. She's like, I don't want it. I'm like, okay, well then, like, do something else with it. Like, no, I'm just giving it to you. I really don't want it. Like, I don't care. So that's how I ended up with that album.
Fair enough.
My mom refusing it to give to anyone else, gives it to the one other person who doesn't like the Eagles.
Tristan says, I wish they would make a good Ghost Rider movie. I mean, to be fair, Ghost Rider's getting his own show too, but it's gonna be the Ghost Rider from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is the I forget his name, but it's the one that drives a car, you know? Him, yeah.
Isn't it something like Reyes, right?
Yeah, and it's an alliterative name, so it's something like Ricky Reyes, Richard Reyes, Roberto Reyes,
Reginald Reyes,
Rupert Reyes, one of those famous Hispanic Ruperts.
Robbie Reyes.
Robbie Reyes. Yeah, it's that version. I'm gonna say something controversial here. Bear with me. I don't think, given the source material, I don't think the Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider movies are that bad. I think Ghost Rider lends itself to a movie like that.
I didn't think they were that bad, honestly.
Yeah. If you're talking about, I mean, if you just to go, like, comic book movies, rank them into categories, right? At the top, you've got your Civil Wars, your end games, the absolute peak of this new era of superhero movies, right? Mm-hmm. And then below that, you've got the kind of good, but before they were getting really, really good. So like your Spider-Man 2, your Superman the movie, you know, the best superhero movies until the MCU, you know what I mean? That kind of era, you know?
Right.
That kind of middle range from beforehand. And then you got your rank 3, I would say, and this is for the ones that they're not standout classics, but they're all right. And I put the Eric Bana Hulk movie, Spider-Man 3, probably. I think that's a little underrated. Most of the X-Men movies, Ghost Rider, and then you get to the bad ones. And I'd say, like for example, the very best of all the rest is like the Fantastic Four movies, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think. I honestly would put the Fantastic Four movies above Spider-Man 3.
Well, see, the thing about Spider-Man 3 is I think it gets clouded by the fact that it's substantially weaker than the other Sam Raimi movies, so it's quite a disappointment. But I personally don't feel like it's a bad movie.
Oh, it is.
Do you think?
It is a bad movie.
I don't feel like that way about it. I feel like it's alright. I feel like it's a bit mixed up, but I don't hate it. I guess because I think, well, I suppose a lot of it is it's coasting on what was a really good foundation, so you got a great cast in there, doing interesting things. But mind you, to be fair, I haven't seen it in a really long time.
So Peter Kirby Cuz says, "Hey, been a while."
And then I think all the rest are just different levels of shit. The Ben Affleck Daredevil.
Yeah.
Every Superman movie after Superman 2. I like Superman 3, but it's mostly because I saw that movie as a young kid, and it's like an early childhood movie for me. Superman. I was talking about Superman 4 the other day. Superman 4. People who don't like, I'll even say this, right? I've had nothing but bad things to say about Man of Steel. But kids today who can watch movies like Suicide Squad or Incredible Hulk or a lot of the lesser superhero movies and be like, well, superhero movies don't come much worse than that. Superman 4 is like the worst superhero movie you've ever seen. It's a sequel to... It's the third sequel to a fantastic superhero movie. It's so bad. It's so bad. And then, you get into, the really bad ones, like the other two Captain America movies. And, oh man, what was that awful adaptation, the really early one, the Doctor Strange movie. Do you remember that? The
Oh
the
yeah,
first Doctor Strange movie. They
the who did it? That Fantastic Four movie.
Roger Corman.
Yeah, the Roger Corman Fantastic Four movie.
I will say
Can we,
this:
can we count that because it never actually got released?
Well, have you ever heard the story about that? That it wasn't actually supposed to be released. They got Roger Corman to do it really, really quickly and lied to him and told him it was going to be released, but they literally only did it to hold on to the rights a little longer. They needed to say they'd put a movie into production to hold the rights.
Right.
I will say I like that movie more than the Jessica Alba one.
Really?
I do genuinely think, aside, the special effects are terrible, but if you factor in that, I think it is actually a stronger movie. It's very low budget, but within that framework of a low budget movie, I actually think it's better written. I think it's a better movie, yeah. But I really don't like the Jessica Alba one, so...
See, I don't mind the first one. I think the second one's horrible, but I think the first one's just fine. Like, there's nothing special about it, but there's nothing wrong with it.
It always makes me laugh that how much things have changed. That a couple of years ago we got a movie with Ego, the living planet, in, and it was actually a planet with a face. Not that long ago we got a movie with Galactus in, and it was a cloud.
Cloud, yeah.
Sinister Minister says, what if Batman were a cat? Well, there is a Catman, and he is a parody of Batman, to be fair.
He's an asshole. He's a villain in DC universe.
Right, but there was the Justice Society Catman. Remember?
Sure. Well, no, in the Justice Society, that's... Wait, really? No, there was... are you thinking of, like...
Justice Guild Catman.
Okay.
There is an evil Catman who is like Batman villain who happens to look exactly like Batman, except yellow.
Right.
And he's Catman. But there's a different Catman who is a parody of Golden Age Batman. Do you know, maybe he was just in the TV show.
Yeah. I know Catman, the evil one, had a pretty good run when Gail Simone was doing Suicide Squad, or no, Secret Six. Excuse me.
Yeah, Catman's great. Tristan says, Doctor Strange, I love that movie. Why are you saying it's terrible? Because we're talking about a different Doctor Strange movie.
Yeah.
Although I believe it didn't go out as Doctor Strange. I think they lost the rights at the last minute and had to call it something else.
Yeah, you look that one up. So, okay, I'm gonna jump into another quick topic.
Oh yeah, sure, go for it. We talk about superheroes all the time.
Well, we're not straying too far away. Right? I'm not gonna go into the books, right? But a lot of people know that I've been reading the Harry Potter books,
right?
And here's the thing I keep on coming back to, where I get it, they're kids' books, whatever. You know, J.K. saw a vision. Do you really, really think that if magic existed, right, especially among like a specific group of people,
right,
that it would be contained in like a happy, whimsical school boarding house world, or like I keep on thinking like these kids would be turned into weapons. Like I legit think like if word got out there was magic, or even within the wizarding world, right? How is there not like child armies?
Well, they do make an interesting reference in the... So one of the questions is, right, what this gets into is, within the Harry Potter books, just how big is the Wizarding World? Because the theory is that the Wizarding World sort of is precisely the size of the normal world in Britain. It just exists alongside it secretly, right? And yet they must be to some extent a minority because they're scared of being detected, right?
Right.
And they're scared of being detected because they fear persecution, because they used to burn witches and wizards and gas like stuff. Although they specifically say that most witches and wizards were capable of just casting a spell that would stop them from being burned. So I don't really know why they hide it all, right? But
right.
Are you talking about child armies run by the non-wizards, or just the wizards?
I think they read both.
Well, I would guess within the wizards, the answer is just that a child is no more capable than any other person within the wizard society. So you've got your question of, like, for example, so this gets to the other issue, which is like, everybody in the Harry Potter universe is basically capable of actioning some pretty simple curses on other people, right. But then everyone else is basically capable of doing counter curses. But
that's just like a matter of teaching. It's
right.
Like Hogwarts teaches them, like, oh yeah, like first lesson, how to lift a feather. What if their first lesson is how to dissect a frog in half with your mind?
Right, and that's the other question, because sometimes magic in the Harry Potter universe for the wizarding people is just a day-to-day how you go about doing your skills, whereas other times it's a weapon. So there is this interesting thing, which is, in theory, right? I mean, this gets to the heart of another issue with the Harry Potter books, if you're trying to take them, I suppose, a tad too seriously. The difficulty is they're not really intended to be taken, I guess, so literally, is the problem. Of
course not. I get that. Like,
I wasn't
talking theoreticals here.
All right, I agree. I'm about to go on to say something which I think agrees with you. Right at the case, you've got a problem, which is every spell that Voldemort ever did that was supposedly terrible and evil, in theory, can be performed by any student at Hogwarts with the wand they are given the day they go. They buy the day they go to Hogwarts.
Right.
Which means, assuming that some of the stuff Voldemort's done is comparable to having a machine gun or a nuke even, right? Mm-hmm. Every kid in Hogwarts is carrying powerful weapons.
Right.
And how does that function in a society? I mean, sometimes they suggest that, like, you have to attain a certain level of training before you can do magic like that. So, like, Voldemort's not just evil, he's also a very talented wizard, right?
Right.
You can't just get to where Voldemort got by being bad. You also have to be incredibly skilled, I guess.
I mean, I guess, like, for me, I know they make a whole big deal about, like, oh yeah, the Ministry of Magic, he's a good, a solid lockdown on all its, but they really don't.
No, they don't.
So, like, I want to see the Harry Potter stories of the wizards who realize that they can make, like, financial gain, like, working for, like, the British government, right? Like the actual, like, MI6,
right.
There's a group of adult wizards, just spies, in the Muggle world. They said, "Fuck it,"
Right. I mean, that is the difficult thing. I mean, the problem is, and I think this is one of the big problems with the Harry Potter universe, and it doesn't bother me in the early books because I think the tone and the approach to the story in the earlier books is explicitly leading you away from viewing the universe like that, right?
Right.
This is a children's book. The rules of the magic aren't important, right? The only way the magic really comes into it is that's what he's here to learn, right? And then right at the very end, a spell is relevant to how he saves the day. But for the most part, it's not a book about magic. It's a book about a kid who goes to a school for wizards. You know what I mean? And earlier on, that's about that. And I would even say with Chamber of Secrets, and probably even with Azkaban, it's not so much about the magic in general, how it works in a wider sense. It's specifically about the specific elements of magic we've introduced as plot points and how they're going to work in the story. But and then it's confined to the school, so it doesn't really matter because the wider wizarding world isn't important. But as she tries to flesh out the world more, and as she tries to make the stories more important, the actual rules of how a spell works and the contradictions become way more important to be logical and to make sense.
Right.
And they don't. And I think it comes of when you start a franchise essentially writing a whimsical sort of this kid goes to a school for wizards and everything's kind of wacky, and then you try and sometimes spooky, and then you try and turn it into, no, this is a serious adventure series about a kid who goes to a school for wizards, you know?
Right.
That's my opinion, I don't know.
Well, okay, so real quick, Tristan says, I mean, the Slytherins are basically, or we're a child army for Voldemort. Yeah, in the same way the Gryffindors are basically Dumbledore's personal hit squad.
Right.
So my question to you then is, what story do you think could exist and would you like to see in the Wizarding world? J.K. Rowling Wizarding World. What story do you think is hidden somewhere in the folds?
Well, I have to say, I personally really enjoyed the first Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them story. I haven't seen the second yet, but I did like that first one. I thought that actually carried across pretty well. But well, that's one of the difficulties, isn't it? Because the only world we ever see is one street in London and Hogwarts for most of this series.
Do the Dursleys live in London?
No, Diagon Alley's in London.
Oh.
And those are our two bits of the Wizarding World we see, right? Diagon Alley. I mean, we do see more here or there as it builds up. Hogsmeade and stuff later on I'm not going to give away because it's more to do with the other books. It's not a big deal, but you know what I mean? You only see those little bits mostly. That's the only bit of the Wizarding World you see, and you get visitors from other schools and things like that, but you only see that one school and the town that happens to be like practically on the school grounds and this one street in London. That's the only Wizarding World you see, really.
Right.
So I guess what was nice about Fantastic Beasts was the idea of I thought they established more in Fantastic Beasts how the Wizarding World overlaps with the modern day world than they do in the Harry Potter books, personally.
Yeah.
But yeah. I think that was okay when they were aimed at a younger audience because they weren't about that. It was about a kid that left the real world to go to school in the Wizarding World, and that was fine. So what story would I like to see? I know it sounds kind of silly, but I'd like to see a crime series, you know?
Okay.
Don't make not this serious, not like a gritty hard edge thing, but you know, give me if J.K. Rowling wanted to write a book, because I know she's written some crime stories, that was about a police officer in the Wizarding World. Okay, here's my setup, right? There's a police officer and he solves crimes in the Wizarding World, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he's a muggle.
Okay.
He accidentally finds his way into the Wizarding World. And he's already a police officer, and because he finds his way in, they investigate. They hire him to join the wizard police, and he investigates crimes where the Wizarding World and the Muggle world overlap.
Okay.
So when they've got to send a wizard to deal with Muggles, when they've got to send a police officer to deal with Muggles because the crimes overlap and they need to figure things out, this guy's like a secret sort of Muggle wizard police liaison who solves crimes that wizards can't solve because they affect wizards, but they revolve around Muggle things that they don't understand. That'd be a good one, I think.
Or how about like almost like a Tango and Cash situation where
right, it's a buddy cop thing.
Right, like or like Alien Nation, right?
Right,
where you get the normal cop, like the Muggle cop, who has a partner who's a wizard.
Right, except the wizard is the one who's the establishment figure because it's set in the Wizarding World.
Right.
But he has to explain things like, you could have crimes. So, for example, wizards, they can do spells that would do things like, show who used a time turner to solve a crime over who fired a gun at a certain time, but what if there's some reason that can't work, or you're not allowed to use those effects in Muggle jurisdiction, so he has to teach them about how powder residue works and things like that. And vice versa.
Oh yeah, Tristan says, like Bright. Yeah, I forgot about that movie.
Well, I mean, that was terrible, so...
I never saw it, but...
But yeah, no, I think that would be that in the Harry Potter universe. I think I quite like.
Tristan also says, I wish he would write more books on the Wizarding World in other countries, since they show that there are a lot of other magic communities in the other countries. Yeah, I mean, I think my initial gut answer would be something like that. Like I mean, I'm of course I'm biased, but I want to see more of the U.S.
Yeah,
Stuff since we got we got a taste of it in Fantastic Beasts 1.
yeah. I haven't seen that second one yet,
Me
Crimes
neither.
of Grindelwald, but I think I'd like to. I also liked because I thought seeing the Wizarding World in the US was interesting, and seeing it in the 30s. You know, seeing it in a different time period too.
I did kind of enjoy, not enjoy, but I thought it was. Excuse me. What I thought was the most interesting thing about what they showed in America was the drastic difference in how they handle like bad wizards, right? Because like what you get in Harry Potter's like oh no, it's an evil wizard. We should, like we'll send him to Azkaban, where a demon will, or essentially a demon will sit there and torment him for years and blah blah. It's real. Even how horrific that sounds, it's still kind of goofy in a way, where it's like
Right.
instead of just locking him away in prison, like no, we got to put him in a place where there's a magical being that sucks out the happiness and all his joy, right? Like they get to the U.S. like, oh, he did something wrong. What are we gonna do? We're gonna kill him. we're just going to lure him into this pit. And
But I think that's also a reflection of how the audience has changed. Because what's nice about Fantastic Beasts is it can be written for the audience that now Harry Potter is marketed towards.
right.
Because I really do think a lot of this stuff and a lot of these inconsistencies just come from the fact that those first books, they don't come from the same literary tradition as the Hunger Games, or like we were talking about Animorphs, stuff like that. We
Right.
have books like that in Britain, kids books that are like that and they're aimed at that audience. But I think the Harry Potter books are really where they start from is younger and is a very different type of kids book. And it's a little tricky to, like, for example, okay, there is a book series that is very similar to Harry Potter, and it was early on, it was very, very frequently caught up in accusations of Harry Potter was frequently caught up in accusations of plagiarism. And I read these books as a kid, and there were a series of books called The Worst Witch, right?
Right.
And it's about a girl who goes to a witch's school. She's called Mildred Hubble, and the setup is very similar. She goes to the witch's school. She has these adventures. She has a friend, and there's a girl who's a bully who's very similar to Malfoy, and there's a teacher who's very like Snape, except it's an all-girls school. All the teachers are women, and that's how it works. And that is, but they were kids' books, you know, like. It's difficult because I'm trying to think of an American, a similar American book to what these books were like, and it's harder to find. But Harry Potter almost comes from more of a similar literary tradition to books like The Moomins. Do you know what I mean? That kind of age range, not just that kind of age range, but that kind of style. And the difficulty I find with Harry Potter is that as she wrote more of them, she tried to graft more of the Hunger Games tradition onto the tradition she started from, and they don't gel, in my opinion.
Right. So for me, what I immediately thought of when you mentioned crime, right? Like what would a good crime story be in the Wizarding World of Harry Potter?
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see a heist, right? And not like I think I know there's like a bit of a heist thing coming in Harry Potter, but like a legit like Ocean's 11 style heist, where the whole story is, hey, we need to jack some sort of mystical item, right? Like,
from Gringotts.
Gringotts or something else, like a castle, or like or you know, let's really mix it up, right? It's a group of British wizards, right, who have to go to.
Make them muggles. Make them
Oh
muggles.
God.
Make them muggles who have to learn how magic works without the ability to do spells.
Or wizards who have to figure out just basic Muggle security systems and try to break into like a casino or something like that. Like,
right, they have magic. They have magic that could get through it, but they don't have their wands.
right.
So they can use some magic, like potions and things like that, but not spells.
Right. I was thinking like you get a group of like British wizards, right? Basically make it like lock, stock, two smoking barrel, right? You get that group of British wizards, and then they have to go to what's that one? Was it Beaumont or something like that? Like the French school that shows up in Goblet. Like they have to go to that school and break in, right? And I think that could be fun. That could be a whole lot of fun. Let's see here. Tristan has an idea, looks like. I wonder if there is a wizard hunter. I would like to see a wizard hunter who knows about the presence of wizards, and maybe a wizard did something to his family or him. He was younger, causing him to hate wizards. He gets items that numb magic or nullify and begins to start murdering them. Or maybe a case for that detective idea Owen has suggested. That could be could be something.
Like what we do in the Shadows when they indoctrinate that new guy into the group and he's immediately bragging to everyone about how he's a vampire. And they meet that guy down the pub and he's like, "Oh, you're a vampire? I'm a vampire hunter." And they have that bragging war, and then the next day one of the others turns up dead. They have to have the flat meeting about who told them. Who told someone they were vampires.
No, I think that could be something like a Van Helsing type character, but for wizards.
Yeah, that'd be good.
It's Dudley, right?
Someone who knows, someone very Dursley, who comes in with a lot of preconceptions.
Mm-hmm. Well, like he thinks like wizards are okay at first, but then like he goes to college and winds up at like an alt-right, fraternity,
Yeah. It's a strange universe.
It really is.
But that, I hope they keep doing stuff with it, because I do like it, but, I think it's one of those things where for me, it's really suffered from, people thinking you can do stuff with it you can't, which began with J.K. Rowling. I feel the same way about Star Wars, Like, I love Star Wars, but people really think that you can do stuff with that franchise that you can't, that it won't stretch to meet, Like, Rogue One's fine, but, it wouldn't have taken any more movies like Rogue One, do you know what I mean?
Right.
You couldn't have made sequels to Rogue One and had them be interesting movies if you kept going in that direction, I don't think.
I think I have a thing for heist movies. That's my thing. Like I love heist movies.
Yeah, me too. And yet you've seen neither of the Ant-Man films.
That's true. Sorry.
I think you'd like the first Ant-Man movie. I don't know how you feel about the second one. The second one's a little... I saw the second one again recently, and I don't mind it, but it's different.
Tristan says, Dudley is like, "It's my world now, Harry."
This is Dudley's world.
Who's the man with the plan? Dudley. Damn right. Well, that's kind of what I have for this show. You got anything else?
Not really. I started playing Monster Hunter World.
Oh, how was that?
Surprisingly good. So, I've only played one Monster Hunter game before, It was the one on the PSP, and I thought it was rubbish. Partly because on the PSP it looked like hell. All the areas are really small, and that's a series that is famous for not being very accessible, if you know what I mean. Dense and hard to get into. But I quite liked it, actually. It was on sale, so I picked it up, and I have a friend who's always trying to get me to play it. I liked it. It's pretty fun to begin with. I think what I like about it is, it has what's always appealed to me about Monster Hunter, but I found difficult to get into, which is, hey, it's just a series of quests where you escalate to get bigger and bigger monsters and get better gear and accumulate things. But it's within this framework of, but we're going to try and start you small and explain how everything's going, because you're traveling to a new continent, so everything's kind of new and fresh there, and you're establishing bases and new camps and things. I like it. I'm slightly concerned that after a couple of hours I may have essentially seen the whole thing, if you know what I mean. Like, I haven't unlocked a ton of gear yet, I haven't killed a lot of monsters yet, and I'm sure the monsters will get very cool, but I think I might have, like, seen the entire extent of the gameplay loop. But it's not a bad loop, it's pretty fun. It's easy to get lost. It's very non-traditional. Sorry, it's very traditional, very non-modern in how it shows you how to do things. Waypoints exist and stuff like that on the map, but mostly the idea is you're going to try and find your own way around. But it's pretty fun. You play a hunter who goes to this new continent where they're trying to research these animals, and because they're a research group, they play up a lot of stuff like, we're not here to just kill everything in sight. We're here to research and learn about these people. Now go kill 7 of these. Which is interesting. But they have a nice context, like, oh, if you don't kill 7 of these, the herd is gonna starve and move across the land. We need to thin their numbers, otherwise they're gonna cause problems and it'll disrupt the whole ecosystem. So there's kind of there's almost like an ecological hunting to it. But fundamentally, you go and get you fight a lot of monsters. It can be a little tiresome in that a lot of the monsters do run away, so you got to kind of chase them around in circles, and sometimes you'll be chasing them over wide stretches of the map. But finding them is pretty fun. So very often you'll have a quest that's just like, hey, kill this big thing. And what you have to do is head into the map, go to where you sort of last saw it, find some clues, and when you find enough clues, you have a waypoint in this game, but your waypoints are these they're these fireflies that can be trained to swarm towards scents.
Right.
So if you want to waypoint a monster, you first have to find enough clues and residue and things the monster's left behind to basically build up the scent for the waypoint, and then you can follow it around the map wherever you need to go. And it's pretty enjoyable. There's also stuff like you are very level locked, right? Until you're certain types. You can go fight monsters whenever you want, but there are monsters that are explicitly like, no, you do not have a chance to fight this one. It will kill you. But you can still run into them whenever you like. I ran into a monster called, I think it was called Anjahana, and it's a T-Rex. It is a giant feathered T-Rex. And I've run onto it on the map several times, but I'm not ready for it yet. I can find it, I've got it tracked, I know where it is on my map at all times, because my fireflies can follow it around, but it's way out of my order. And then just going... Sorry, I was
just gonna say real quick, because you say like I've heard everything. I've heard very much that game is actually the opposite of that. Is that it doesn't? It's one of those. It doesn't really open up until you get towards that late end game stuff.
Right.
And then like the game itself, like I guess doesn't radically change, but like the things that they have you do and like what you need to do to kill or take down monsters makes it feel like kind of a different game.
Well, one thing I didn't realize when I bought it, even though it was called Monster Hunter World, and I should have figured this out, is that this is one of those Destiny type games, right? It's always online. You are always in an instance with other players. You're always matchmake, so a lot of the monsters are sort of encouraged to play around with it. So really, you're trying to get through the story first so that you can then move on to your events, basically.
Right.
Which doesn't really bother me. I'm still very early in it, and it's got that thing with Monster Hunter where as soon as you get into the game, you do a little bit of a tutorial section, and then you eventually catch up because of events beyond your control. You land far away from the base you're trying to get to, so you make your way to the base, and then when you get there, the base has like 135 different exclamation marks you can go on, and people, games like that. And
Right.
so what I'm
My
doing,
nightmare.
but not exactly. They're not side quests. It's not like, hey, here's 135 different things you can do out in the world. It's just a lot of different people you can talk to in the home base. And they don't all have quests for you, but it's like one person gives you bounties, another person gives you one person is an armor store, another person is an armor upgrade store, another person is a food store. You know what I mean? And it's quite huge and quite weaving. And then there's matchmaking areas and all stuff like that. So I'm in the stage right now where I'm taking an approach of, no, right now in the game, I go from my bed to the quest giver and the armorer. Those three things. And I'm kind of gradually working my way out. But I do like it. The upgrade system's really fun. So every piece of armor can be upgraded 5 times. And that's just a simple thing of if you have a piece of armor.
5 times? Too many!
That's just a simple system of if you have a piece of armor and you use it, eventually you'll gain like an upgrade point. You can just tot it up. You can spend an armor upgrade point on whatever you want and do that. But the weapon upgrades are really fun because they're upgraded from resources you find. So and there's different paths, right? So you might have like a sword, and then you can upgrade it immediately to just a better quality sword with some iron ore, and that puts you on the iron path, right? And then the iron path of that sword might lead on to a few different things. So there's a creature called the Great Jagras. Or Jagras, sorry. And if you kill the Great Jagras, you'll get some Great Jagras bits. And then you can use
I'm more into a little bit of that J grass, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
And then
lies!
If you have those resources, you can put your sword on the Great Jagras path, which will lead a certain direction, which would just be like, their scales, so it's tougher things. But if you had parts from a different creature, you could go, and then there's different sort of trees that lead on and connect to different trees in different places, which is fine. Lots of stuff does that. And there's lots of different paths. So you can go down a path, for example, that's, there's one path that's the bone path, where put lots of different animal bones, you can make a sword that's more and more and more equipped with different animal bones. Animal bones are one of the easiest resources to find, so it's a safe upgrade path. But it doesn't have it'll get you lots of upgrades nice and easily for your weapons, but it doesn't have the bonuses that come with finding more rare creatures. But what's nice about it is, at any time, you can just de-upgrade, get all the resources you spent back, and just try a completely different build. The lock to all that is having killed the right creatures, not having made the right choices that you're forever locked to. When it comes to upgrading. So long as you've killed the creatures enough to get a certain upgrade, you can put it on, you can take it off, you can try something different. And that's really fun.
I mean, yeah, you can kill enough creatures, and you can dance if you want to. I mean, you can leave your friends behind. And if your friends don't dance, and if they don't dance, then they're no J grass of mine.
So it's good, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. I was thinking about they have a demo out right now.
Yeah.
That I thought about giving it a shot.
I didn't know about until after I bought it.
Sorry.
It's fine. I'm liking it, so I'm glad I bought it. It's fun. And then you got like you have a little sidekick. It's like a little cat. Little.
I did see that. Did you make toffee?
I did. And what's nice about that is you can give them their own equipment trees, but you can also give them sort of specific tools to use. Or things to use that will help you, like healing, encourage them to use healing items or things like that, and they'll get better at what specific tasks you set them to do. So the more you use them for a specific thing, the more they'll just hang around and help, and they're actually helpful.
Is there an interrupt stream ability?
Not yet, but I'm sure it's coming. But no, it's good. I've tried to get into Monster Hunter before, and I've never really cared for it because I found it very inaccessible. This game seems to be aimed at getting you up to speed with it. I still feel a little sorry. I feel a little sad when I have to kill the beasties that are running away from you and don't wish to fight. That's always
Right.
a troubled one, but no, it's fun. You get to kill some scary monsters in it. It's good.
I like the idea of the grizzled hunters going through the woods and then they come across you just weeping. I'm sorry, stabbing away at the jay grass.
It's really funny because the last one I played was just like, oh yeah, this is roaming in the plains. Go fuck it up. But this one, they always want to have these flimsy excuses. So they go, okay, we need to set up a new campsite. What you need to do is just go set up the camp there. Just make sure if there are any animals living in the area that'll be trouble, they'll need to be culled. They always use that word, culled.
Right.
So you get there and you find this creature. And it's basically like an ostrich dinosaur. And it's digging around in the grass. And it finds this jar, right? And as soon as it sees you, it basically goes, oh shit! And it runs away. It drops the jar and it flees, right? It immediately runs away. It's clearly terrified of people, right?
It must be killed for littering.
And the guy goes, well, this camp will never be safe with that around. We better go cull it. So then you have to chase this thing over the map. And it takes like an hour. Well, it doesn't take that long. It wouldn't take as long with multiplayer, but I'm playing it single player. So you have to chase it around and around and around the world, hammering it slowly to its death. And this thing runs away more than anything. And I just kept thinking about that message. The camp will never be safe with this guy around. Oh yeah, this cowardly bird is really going to cause a problem for our camp.
Look, nothing can predict that it doesn't, cowardly run away from a loud noise into the camp, all right? That could happen.
But some of the monsters are really fun. So when you first have to kill these Jagras things, they basically look like little geckos, And then after you've killed a few and you're killing a few other things, you have to kill these other things that are called, I forget what they're called, but they're like armored dinosaurs. And you have to kill a few. And then often you'll do a quest, and then it'll turn out you have a bigger quest. So we have this plot of like the ecosystem being disrupted by the arrival of this elder dragon. And I fought these things, and they were a real pain. They were armored, and they were beating me up, and they were huge. And I finally got like the 6 I needed to finish the quest. And then this Jagras comes along that's bigger than all the other Jagrases I've seen. And it just eats a whole one like a snake. And then has this giant bloated belly where it's digesting a giant monster. And then the quest guy goes, well, I guess we better go kill that then, the great Jagras. And I was like, oh, come on!
It has to be cold. Does it? Yes.
That is basically the attitude. There was a bit where they said, these creatures here are just as docile and peaceful as the ones back home. If you ever need any meat, kill a few of those. I was like, oh, come on!
These things are harmless, and to kill one is to live a cursed life.
These creatures seem to be as intelligent and cultured as the ones back home, with primitive huts, writing systems, and cultural traditions.
And they taste great with rubbed in garlic.
Yeah. So, it is a good game. That's just a natural response for me. I like hunting in video games, but I still feel sad when I have to kill an animal that doesn't want to die.
And that's most of them, aren't they?
For sure, but it is a pretty fun game. It's very Japanese. It feels like, even though it's sort of open world, it feels a lot like games like, like Snake Eater, like the way it's broken down into areas. It feels a lot like that, even though there's no loading screens between sections. There are very different sections you go into. It's good, though. There's some nice features, actually. Some of the features I've been thinking about I really like. Like, there's a crafting system which is true to Monster Hunter, right? You find some herbs. Every time you get 2 herbs, you can combine them into a health potion, right? But you can go into your but then that's all herbs are used for, aside from later on with better upgrades. So you can go into your crafting inventory and go, every time I'm holding 2 herbs, just automatically turn it into a potion for me. Don't make me go craft them. Every time I find 2, auto potion. Thank you! And I love that.
Oh yeah, that's a great function. Until right, you forget that you had that turned on.
Right.
You had that quest where it's like, hey, collect like 4 of these herbs. Like, all right, got them. And then you show up, you have 2 potions. It's like, fuck.
Oh, it's the game-changing mega potion. We need to complete the game. It takes 25 herbs. Ah.
Here you go. Here's 12 potions. And
Extract them. Here's 12 potions in a sieve.
Here's a straw.
But no, it's a good game. I had you been considered? Are you interested in it? I don't know. Is this something you'd be interested in playing?
Not really. Like, to me, Monster Hunter always seemed like it's another one of those games to me that it's more fun to almost hear about it than actual play. Like, my big example is always Eve Online. I will never, ever understand that game enough to play it. Okay,
I've played it briefly, and it's 80% opening tabs to put your character through certain types of training that you don't get to see or participate in.
Right.
Or it was for me.
But yeah, it's because like I love hearing the stories that come out of Eve. You know, like, oh yeah, me and my guild were doing this, and then this happened, and holy crap, and then the ship came out of, like, you know, like, that sounds awesome to me. Like, I love hearing those stories, right? Because like they're filtered, I guess, in a way through an imaginative mind when they're told. Because like usually when these like oh, this crazy thing happened, and you're like, okay, well, show me a video of it, and it's like bloop, bloop,
I guess
bloop. You know, it's just like numbers changing.
I guess once you are very invested in the game, that becomes easier because you automatically know what you're looking at, and you've got past all the tutorials and stuff like that. But like a game like Eve, that's so much to get invested in. Do you know, it's similar to, I really liked Elite Dangerous, right? I really, really liked that game. I very much enjoyed it. But the first, 5 hours of me playing that game were learning to come out of light speed by a planet without overshooting it by 2 years flight travel time.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I love stories like the fact that Elite Dangerous has those fuel rats, you know? Where they'll come rescue if you run out of fuel.
You heard that story, right?
Where the fuel rat went to rescue the guy, and then the cat jumped on the keyboard, and he blew the guy up.
No. So I was just reading about this. All right, I read about this a couple weeks ago. I wanted to bring it up on the show.
Oh, good.
Because I know you had played the game. So there was a guy who was making an attempt to go as further out than anyone else had ever gone in the game, and but didn't plan properly and got stranded. And he was out there for a month. Every time he loaded up the game, he was there. And he was specifically logging in every day to keep him there, because I guess if you don't log in, they will just eventually
reset you.
Yeah. So he was purposely doing this. He was purposely logging on every day to keep himself there, out in space, because he thought it was kind of funny. Well, the fuel rats heard about this, right? Because this is actually a much more organized group than you think they are. This is
right.
They hear about this and they decide that we can do this. We can get him. We think we can pull this off. And they take about a week to work out how they would do this, and they pull it off. They actually pull it off. They get out there and get him fuel and rescue him.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's and it's when you hear stuff like that, it's like all the horrible things you hear people say about like our generation in particular, you know, us millennials, we get a lot of the brunt of it.
Right.
And then you read a story like that, it's like, you know, we might not be utilizing our abilities amazingly, but this proves that maybe we could save the world. You know what I mean?
Right. But then when you actually play the game, it's 90% looking at a cockpit and going, okay, we're coming up on Epsilon 32 in 5.
But that's the real world anyways. That's what life is.
I say this as someone who played Elite Dangerous and loved it and wants to get back into it. but they were not very... Actually, do you know what? They were actually surprisingly popular streams, because Elite Dangerous players love new players. Because it must be a really hard game to keep the audience interested in. My problem is, I know that I would not remember how to play if I went back, and I can't be bothered learning again. It's a fun game, though.
So, for me, like, Monster Hunter is very similar to that.
Right.
It feels like a very... it's a game that I love hearing about. You know, like, when you're telling me about, like, I was going after the Jagresses, and all of a sudden the giant one shows up, and it's like that. I like hearing that story. Experiencing it, like, as playing the game, I don't know if it would still hit me. You know?
I will say, it is a game I'm playing while listening to podcasts. Because it's pacey, you know?
Right.
But I was looking for a game like that to kind of play on my downtime. Because it's one of those games where I know that I can go away and do some other shit. And when I want to play it again next time, I'll just be like, alright, what dinosaur can I go kill today? You know?
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm ready to wrap up.
Oh, I'll tell you one last thing to talk about before I go.
Yeah, no, bring it on. I'm just... because I got
Are
nothing.
you still watching Game of Thrones?
I am reading recaps at this point. I just can't...
So, do you mind me talking about this week's episode a little bit? I'm not going to go into too heavy spoilers.
I read it. I read the recap. I know what happened.
I totally understand why people are feel like these last couple of seasons are a little like pushed for time, and it feels like decisions are coming about quickly. I get it, because it does feel like the show's suddenly being forced to wrap up quickly, which I think is a mistake. I don't know why they're doing it like that, but sure, whatever. People have turned on this show so much this season.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, you know me, I'm all one for saying, this is rubbish now. Like, I'm not shy about saying I think something's declined in quality when it has, right?
Right.
But this is one of the most clear-cut examples of a show that is suffering from the fact that it has become too popular, not from the fact that it has declined in quality. It's getting popularity backlash, I think.
Well, I mean, like, it's the same thing that happens with Star Wars, right? Where it becomes so popular, and people allow these properties become so important to their life beyond just watching a show. Like, you get a lot of people who have, like, Game of Thrones tattoos now, who, like... I just read somewhere not too long ago that Khaleesi became one of the most popular children's name in the last 5 years.
Right.
And, like, that's like, the show has become a very intricate part of people's lives beyond just pop culture. And when that happens, people start to formulate how it needs to be in their own head.
Right.
And when they realize that they're not going to get what they want, they don't take ownership of the fact of, oh, I set my sights too high, or my hopes were based
or
in the
too
wrong
specific.
Place. Yeah, you know. And they don't take ownership of that. They push it onto the creators, going, you didn't read my mind and know that I wanted Tyrion to have a love child with Missandra, or Missandei, or whatever her name was.
We're in an interesting place now where a show that became famous for defying audience expectations at the last minute and taking the show in directions people didn't expect it to go is being criticized for taking the show in an unexpected direction at the last minute and going somewhere people didn't expect it to go.
Well, you know what's kind of funny, though, about that you say that? Because you're right. They're taking the show in unexpected places. But because of how many times the show in the past has gone to unexpected places, the only unexpected place left to go is incredibly cliche.
Right.
Like, I've been reading how this is all playing out. It's like, oh, this is maybe the most milquetoast conclusion I've ever seen. Like,
well, the other thing is, I've been annoyed for a long time with people who watch Game of Thrones because, spoilers, anybody watching.
Mhm.
My opinion is that Daenerys as a character has been acting unethically for about 2 seasons now.
Oh, absolutely.
Her sense of entitlement to the throne is no better than the people she claims to oppose, and
Right.
I think this twist that's come up this episode is actually incredibly well established.
Yeah.
As they always are when you rewatch, right? What happened to Ned in the first season is a little bit of a left field thing, but we have established that Joffrey's kind of out of control, and that's the instigating moment as well for the whole rest of the stuff. But things like the Red Wedding were established, all this sort of stuff. But now we got this situation where this conclusion to me makes perfect sense, but people were so. Do you know? Maybe this is. I'm going to say something. I don't want it to sound condescending, but maybe it will. I think what we're also seeing is because it's becoming so popular, the fan base now consists of a hell of a lot of people who don't watch TV like this often, or don't read books like this. Do you know what I mean? They're not used to drama that goes where the story should go, not where the audience would really like it to go.
Right.
And if you've never heard of Game of Thrones, well, if you've never watched Game of Thrones and you went back and you watched all the stuff you'd never seen before from season 1 up to say season 5, and then you just started watching in the last 2-3 years, watching that old stuff after it had already been on is very different to following it as it continues. And I think as it's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, we're seeing all these people who think that Game of Thrones is a TV show like like a CW show. Do you know what I mean? And it's not like that. And I feel sorry for the people making Game of Thrones, really. Like, they've made some mistakes. It does feel a little bit rushed, but I feel like the criticism is so undeserved in this case. I don't get it, really, in a lot of ways. Yeah. I don't get the anger, actually.
I think a lot of it is... I mean, just speaking within the terms of Game of Thrones, right, is... I commend them for what they have done so far. Where you have a show filled entirely... I mean, this is a real simplified version of this, and I know there's layers, but Game of Thrones is a show filled with assholes, right? There's very few genuinely decent people to root for. And the ones that are there are kind of minor characters that, if you do root for them, it's like you're rooting for the third guy at the table in the background. Right? But the problem is that you can only do that so long before human nature takes over. People want to root for someone. It happened with Breaking Bad. There was no real good characters in Breaking Bad, but people started to really root for Walter White at the end. Regardless of how bad he really was. And it's the same thing happened with Game of Thrones, is people wanted their hero, and a lot of people chose Dany. And even though, I agree with you, I think there has been plenty of suggestion that she's not quite sane, and she is a bit unethical. Like to me, the one that always stuck out with me is how she handles the other calls of the Dothraki. Where, you remember this? It's she wants to secure all of the Dothraki. Right. And basically what she does, she basically tricks all the leaders into a tent to have a meeting, knowing very well that she can survive being burned, and sets the motherfucker on fire. Right? That's unethical. That's very unethical. It's downright evil. and but people chose her because okay, well, she's not as bad as Cersei, or she's not as bad as Joffrey, and she's not as bad as some of these other characters. So we're gonna root for her. And then they put her in a moment where her true character really shows, and people are like, "This is bullshit. This is a complete character change." No, it's not a complete character change. It's a departure of your wish.
Right. And it's completely established and signaled in the show. And it's been something we've been talking about for the last 3 episodes overtly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really get it. Well, yeah. No, I think you're right. I definitely think people are struggling. To me, like, I don't even get these people who go, well, you know, it's a sign that people are so attached to the show and they love it, and it's how much they love the characters. Well, I love the show and I love the characters a lot. But I love the show because one of the things I've always loved about Game of Thrones and the books themselves is the story goes where it's right for the story to go, not where it's almost literary right for the story to go, if you know what I mean, or poetically right, or audience satisfaction right. It goes where it's most interesting to go at that time for the right reasons and for what needs to happen next. And sometimes there are things that happen in Game of Thrones that look like they've completely upset all kinds of other things that were going to happen. And when you sit and you think about, oh, why did that happen? What you can see a direct line of events that brought you there, but ultimately the reason for why that happened was because in the story of the war we're telling, that's what happened.
Uh-huh.
Because it could have happened. And why wouldn't it? You know, and that to me has always been the message of Game of Thrones, you know, characters don't stay alive just because you like them because they're in a war, right?
Uh-huh.
And that is I think why I keep coming back to this idea that I guess what I'm thinking is, what show were these people watching for the rest of it?
Right.
Because it's always been like this, right? Particularly the episode before the season finale. You know?
Right.
Episode 9 of season 1, Ned Stark dies.
Uh-huh.
Episode 9 of season 2, Tyrion survives the battle and saves the day in King's Landing. Episode 9,
Right.
season 3, Robb Stark and Catelyn killed in the Red Wedding. You know, it's always just before the ending, just when you think you know where the ending's going to go. It turns out we were building to something different. But we were building towards it. Just because you didn't see it coming, you know?
Uh-huh. I mean, I think there's legit concern, like you said, like this does feel rushed. This
Yes.
season feels absolutely rushed and very misleading as well, leading into it, right? Where everyone's like, "Oh yeah, you know, there's only going to be 8 episodes or 8 or 6, I can't remember how many there's supposed to be, but it's going to be a half of a season, but each one's going to be like 2 hours long, and we didn't get that."
Yeah. Although they are like an hour and 20 minutes each, which is still longer than.
Sure. So if you add them all together, we got what? You're still missing episodes of a normal season, right?
Well, I mean, a normal season's 10 episodes, so we're not that far off, really.
Is it 10?
Yeah.
I thought he did 12. I thought he did at 12.
It is 10 because Beth and I are actually rewatching it at the moment to catch up.
Okay. Fair enough. But okay, so this does feel rushed. And you know what I get the feeling of is this is a case not necessarily of this is where the show is naturally going to go. This feels very much like writers, creators, actors being done with something. They're just like,
Sure.
We're done. We're done with this. Like we enjoyed it. We had our fun.
Well, it needs to come to an end eventually, you know?
Right. It's like we just need to be done. Like, because you got to think about some of these actors. I mean, it's the same way with the MCU. Like with those original group of Avengers, they've been doing this for a long time, people. You know, and let them go. Just let them go. You know, they all deserve their farm up north. You know, just
I agree. It has made me actually want to go back and read the books, because I read the first 2 books before it. Well, I read the first book before it started the show, and then I started reading the second while I was watching the show because I liked it so much. And then it's made me want to go back to the books and kind of catch up with the lore and things like that, because I don't know. I mean, George R.R. Martin's a producer on the show. I'm
right.
fairly sure he's told them. I think they've talked about this, that what's happening on the show, I think, is almost certainly what he intends to write. But he's been known to kind of change paths before, so I'm interested in seeing.
Oh, I mean, like, okay. Well, I'll let you finish. I got a question for you then afterwards.
I'm just saying I'm interested in reading the books and catching up with those and seeing where they're gonna end the story compared to the show.
Okay, so my question is it's a 2-part question. One, do you think that this was like you said, do you think this was originally George R. R. Martin's basic roadmap to the ending?
Yeah, assuming we're just talking about,
you know, like major characters being in the places that they are,
more or less.
Okay. Deaths happening.
I think. Well, bear in mind, we don't know what's going to happen next week yet, and that could change things. But I kind of do. I think I kind of do, but I think it would probably take longer in Martin's version. Yeah,
right.
I think.
Okay.
I think if. Well, okay, I'll say it this way. If George R. R. Martin's version went the same way, I wouldn't be sat there going, well, I didn't expect him to do that. I think it would be in line with what I'd expect from what I read in the other books.
Okay. So now that the show's out there and he still follows through and finishes his books, do you think now that they will go the same path, or will he now choose, like, are we now going to have the whole?
It's interesting, isn't it?
The splitting of the universes of, like, well, in the book universe it ends like this, and in
well,
they've
already deviated quite a bit, even when they were working on the same material. I don't know, because here's the thing. So what he always says is, you know, he used to say, I worried that, like, I was trying to lay down rail and the train was coming up behind me, you know. But he's always said, when I sit at the computer and I write, I don't think of the TV show. I just write the way the book's going to go. And he said, because what he said was, and I think this is probably true, that's the only way you can do it. If you thought about the TV show while you were doing it, it just wouldn't work. It just wouldn't. You would never get back to where you were. Must influence you in some way. But you must admit, there must be a part of you that would just go, fuck it, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's what I mean. Like, if it was me sitting down at the computer, you know, writing the book, and they've already essentially plotted out a future involving the characters that I have at my disposal, and I get to a point where it's like, well, I kind of want to do the same thing, but fuck it, no. Like, I'm gonna do something like now Danny grew a 4th leg, or 3rd leg, or whatever.
Right. Well, it's interesting because the book's also leading in a different way, too. Like, I don't know what's going to happen with this character, Patchface, who's not in the show. In the books, there's a character called Patchface, and it's really interesting. Patchface is this, you know where Stannis Baratheon lives, where Melisandre, the Red Woman, they have that castle down south, and it's all dark and horrible?
Yeah.
In the books, starting from the second book, Stannis' wife and his daughter are in that book from book 2. They don't come into the show till season 3, but they're background characters all the way through book 2. And same characters, basically. The daughter's got that disease she's cured from, and all that stuff. But they have this jester, and the jester, basically, Stannis Baratheon's brother one day, he's across the sea in Volantis, and he sees this slave, who's a slave jester, and he's one of the most entertaining jesters he's ever seen. He's a juggler, and he's a singer, and he tells hilarious jokes. And so he buys him to take him home, to make him the jester of the castle, and to give him a better life. But when they're on the way home, the ship wrecks, and everybody on board's killed. And a few days later, the Jester washes ashore. And they know it's him because he's dressed as the Jester, and slaves in Volantis have these tattoos on their face. And he's got, Jesters have that like diamond pattern. He's got that tattooed all over his face.
Okay.
But he comes back wrong. So the best way to explain it is he comes back telling jokes that sound like jokes. He tells them like they're jokes, but they're not funny. They're disturbing and unusual and weird, and they don't make sense. And he sings songs about caves and gods who live at the bottom of the sea and mermaids and the dead rising from the water and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of clear that he's a little bit like Barak Dodarian and these other people who've come back as prophets, come back from the dead, harboring with news, essentially. And there's a lot of tie-ins between the things he says and the things the Greyjoys and the Iron Islanders believe about the drowned god, where you've got to kind of drown yourself first before you come into it. And that character, so in the TV show, Stannis' daughter is sacrificed, right?
Sure.
But in the books, that character hasn't died yet. If that's what's going to happen. They haven't caught up to that bit yet. And this Jester is her only friend, and he's incredibly protective of her. And he keeps harboring doom, basically. He's a background character, but he keeps saying things that tie into things that have happened in the show and things that have happened in the books. But what he seems to be suggesting is there isn't just this enemy of like ice zombies. There's something in the water that's coming. And the show hasn't done anything with that because they didn't introduce Patchface. So a lot of people basically have these ideas that in the books, this something's coming from the water. We don't know what it is yet, but before these books end, something's happening with the water. And so it could end completely differently if that's all important. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Because one of the things I found from reading the books I didn't realize is George R. R. Martin's really into Cthulhu and Lovecraft.
Okay.
And there are quite a lot of references to Cthulhu and Lovecraft in there. And creatures below the ocean. Wouldn't it be great if next episode of Game of Thrones, fucking Cthulhu just...
I think I was telling someone earlier that I was like, I would love the... I like the St. Elmo's fire ending.
Oh.
At the very end, it shows someone sitting on the throne and blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden just cuts to like legit George R. R. Martin in the room with the writers of the show going, that's how you want to end it?
I'd love it.
Like that,
I'd love it.
That's terrible.
I find that character so terrifying, though. I don't know why that horror trope scares me, but people who come back from the dead wrong is one of the creepiest things to me. Tristan says, I love H.P. Lovecraft. So do I, even though he was a big racist.
He was a big racist.
I love his writing, but he was a big racist.
So, okay. Before we wrap up, because we do have to wrap up.
Yeah, we do.
I have a question for you. Okay.
I'm sorry, John. I'm spoken for.
I'll love you more than they ever could.
Probably true.
In ways they never could, too.
Probably true. Wakes up tomorrow in a cage, being poked with a stick and rubbed in bread.
Never had this before, have you, Adam?
Yeah.
Goodbye, horse.
It puts the barbecue sauce on the skin and then puts it in the basket. What? Pardon? What did you say?
It doesn't question his love of hickory.
I do love hickory.
So my question was, okay, since this kind of came in when you said, about H.P. Lovecraft, I love his writing. I have been tempted, as of recently, to watch films that I've wanted to watch for a long time. They just happen to come from a director who I loathe morally, right? In a moral sense.
Is it Spielberg?
It is Woody Allen.
I was worried this was going to go to an upsetting anti-Semitic place.
No.
Okay.
And I'm still because like he has some movies that have come out rather recent, not recently, but probably within the last 10 years that kind of really appeal to me. That sound like they could be really good. I think I'd actually enjoy them. But I'm still in that weird place of like, I don't want to show support to Woody Allen.
It's one of those things where, people talk about, separate the art from the artist and stuff like that. And what really annoys me when people talk about that is, when they say, I can separate the art from the artist, is that's usually something you talk about when the artists are dead.
Right.
And some time has gone past. So I think if you kill Woody Allen, you're in the clear.
Jesus.
I mean, some people would consider you a hero.
Oh, I imagine, yeah.
Tristan says, if you admit you hate the director but appreciate their work, that's alright, you still know they're an awful person. The problem with that is, when that director's still alive, and you obtain their work legally, you're financially supporting someone who you disapprove of.
Mm-hmm.
And as usual, I'm going to put my usual caveat. For me, it would be a completely different situation if Woody Allen's official position was, I did terrible things and I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not. It's, I did terrible things and I didn't do terrible things. Shut up.
Right.
I mean, it's one of those things where, I'm not out there running a campaign to bring down Woody Allen because the truth is, I believe in believing people who make accusations and stuff like that, and I think it's important not to... But I still also believe in innocent until proven guilty, and I don't know. Therefore, my official position is I don't get involved, but I also don't watch Woody Allen movies anymore. I don't know, John. I mean, it's difficult because, one of my favorite movies in the world is a Woody Allen movie. And I'd love to watch it again. But, it's...
What if I just pirate the movie?
Well, that would also be wrong.
Yeah, but is it?
I don't know. It's one of those things where, this is something I genuinely worry about. I guess my thing is, I don't think that... So I just said that to Tristan as a point because I think that's the counter argument, right? But I don't necessarily agree that just because someone does something bad, you should immediately quit all work for their life, right? I haven't rewatched Pro Jared's Monster Hunter World review yet. I don't know if I will, but
No.
But I don't necessarily think there's anything immoral in just looking at some content. But you have to be aware. For me, I think it comes down to more: can you still appreciate that? Like, for example, and it depends on how actively destructive the situation is as well. Like, for example, I won't buy Doug TenNapel games. I love Earthworm Jim, and a new Earthworm Jim's coming out, and I won't use it. I won't buy it because the guy who created Earthworm Jim and makes money from Earthworm Jim is a huge homophobe who writes for Breitbart, right?
Right.
I won't.
I didn't know that, actually.
Yeah, and he also did the other game, Armacrog, and things like that, So, and it's sad to deprive us. It's sad when someone who makes work you like does that, and you feel obliged to deprive it. I happen to, one of my favorite books of all time is Ender's Game. I have not seen the Ender's Game movie, because Orson Scott Card actively puts his money into oppressing gay people. And I think that's an even more serious example. But with the Woody Allen thing, there's another slight difference to it, too, which is, and I don't like taking the collective responsibility thing, but 1,000,001 people are going to watch the next Woody Allen movie and talk about how great it is in papers. People who know. And I guess it's one of those things where, are you yourself, by watching the movie, contributing to further evil in the world? Or does it just not matter? Do you know what I mean? Is it just...
Right.
Is it a drop in the ocean? And then, are you actually going to be able to appreciate the movie? But if you do watch some Woody Allen movies, watch The Purple Rose of Cairo as well. It's great.
Okay.
It really is very good.
The one specifically I really want to see was it Midnight in Paris?
Yeah, I heard that one's good.
Yeah, and I also want to see Vicky Cristina in Barcelona.
I don't know that one.
That's the one with Scarlett Johansson and Cruz.
So here's a question.
Penelope Cruz, Javier Bardem.
Here's a slightly related question. I will say this. I wouldn't judge anybody for watching a Woody Allen movie. I don't necessarily think you become unethical because you still watched a movie that a ton of people watched. But I think that's something where everybody's going to draw their own line, you know? What I will say is, what do you think about people who still work with Woody Allen?
I think that's the tougher one because I think there's a part of me who thinks that they are like okay with it. You know what I mean? Like, at a certain level, you have to like be somewhat fine with what he's done and able to work with him, right? And that puts you in a compromised position. But on the flip side, like Hollywood works in a really fucked up way where you're only as good as your repertoire, right? And Woody Allen still holds some sort of clout,
right?
So that is still a sort of feather to put in your cap, like, oh, I was in a Woody Allen film, right?
I never know how to feel about it myself, because here's the thing. I've talked a lot about how I recently got into ethical philosophy and things like prison abolition as a concept, and I've talked about this a lot, about how I've become really interested in the concepts of forgiveness as a society and mob justice and anger on behalf of others, and I've kind of got to the point where I might have actually come to the conclusion that our entire concept of punishment is fundamentally flawed. But to me, the story of Woody Allen would almost be a story of the model way we should treat people if he'd shown any accountability.
Right.
But with no accountability, it's the exact model way we shouldn't treat people who've done bad things.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Well, real quick, Tristan says, Midnight in Paris is amazing. And he also says, currently, though, I'm feeling emotionless due to mental issues. I still think, though, it doesn't make you a bad person.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, I agree. And I hope you get help with your mental issues, by the way.
Tristan also said, Pirate Earthworm Jim. I feel obliged to mention, even though I'm taking this very principled stand on Earthworm Jim, the new Earthworm Jim is exclusive to the new ColecoVision console, which I will not be buying. So it's easy to take the moral stance, but if you think I wouldn't have taken it anyway, I did not buy Armorkrog, even though I really wanted it. Because Armorkrog looks great, little stop-motion claymation animation game. But it was bad, so...
Well, that seems like a good place to wrap up then.
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you for watching. This has been another episode of Those Aren't Biscuits. With me, as always, has been Owen Adams. Owen, where can they find you?
Go to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Owen Adams.
Awesome. And you can just stick right on this channel if you want to hear or see more of me. Or you can follow me on Twitter, which is @JohnCPerson. So until next time, have a good one.
Bye!